Hello and welcome to another episode of Gemstone Mine. I'm John, and today we're going to talk about a topic that has become something of a signature of mine, and we're going to talk about hidden commanders. When most players sit down to build a deck, they often do so around the core of their commander, a consistently accessible creature which often has a unique effect on the game. I've made something of a habit of brewing decks which revolve less around the commander and more around one of the cards in the 99 of the deck. In this episode, I'll give a rundown on how to build those decks that revolve around hidden commanders, which can present a unique deck building challenge or give new life to a favorite pet card. To start, we should look at what kind of decks want to play hidden commanders. While I acknowledge that I have a preference for value decks over focus decks, the nature of hidden commanders requiring so much consistency out of your deck in order to access them really does tend to push the deck towards being value-oriented over focused. Hidden commander decks are also extremely difficult to fully optimize, as we often have to dedicate multiple slots to just finding and enabling our hidden commander. It's not a phenomenon we often see in CEDH or CEDH adjacent decks. Hidden commanders also tend to see more play in high color decks, as having more colors unlocks more potential synergy for the hidden commander. Now, what makes for a good hidden commander? The more impactful the hidden commander is on your game plan, the better your hidden commander is. And the less effort you need to put into replicating the commanderness of your hidden commander, the better your hidden commander is. Finally, the floor for the cards which you have included to help your hidden commander function as intended, again, the better your hidden commander is. Impact, for one, is really easy to judge. The same criteria you may use to judge your commander overall can be used to judge a hidden commander. Does it provide significant resources like card advantage, mana ramp, etc.? Does it provide significant synergy, which improves the quality of other cards in your deck? You can check out our video on what makes a commander good for details on this. Next, we want to look at how consistently you can access your hidden commander, one of those hidden commanderness qualities that we're looking for. The two main ways you'll do this are through tutors or through a good source of card draw. Black decks with unconditional tutors often have the easiest time accessing a hidden commander. You have things like Demonic Tutor, you have things like Vampiric Tutor, and other powerful unconditional tutors which can get your hidden commander out of your deck and into play. Green decks with access to creature tutors are probably a close second when your hidden commander is a creature, which it doesn't always have to be. White decks have a little bit more expertise in tutoring for enchantments or for equipment, but if the pet card you want to turn into a hidden commander is a planeswalker, well, white is starting to get access to that as well. In terms of card draw, blue and black always have the best access to repeated sources of card draw, followed closely by green, followed by red, with white in last. So your overall color identity that you're going to be using to build your hidden commander deck does depend on what your hidden commander, what your pet card is going to be. Next, you want to know how consistently can you replay your hidden commander. Green has a fairly large number of unconditional regrowth effects, which can let you get back anything. Looking in Abzan, black, green, and white, you'll often have access to a fairly good approach to getting creatures back out of your graveyard. Red, blue, and white, so Jeskai often has access to artifact cards from the graveyard at a reasonable chance to rebuy. If you're in Selesnya playing a white and green deck, you'll often have a fairly easy time to get an enchantment back from your graveyard. And black and white with Orzhov as one of your bases specifically has been getting access to Planeswalker card recursion from the graveyard. Next, you want to look at how your commander specifically synergizes with your hidden commander. Your choice in commander usually involves access to more than just extra colors for your hidden commander. If your commander actually makes it easier to access or replay your hidden commanders, that's really useful. If your commander generates resources when your hidden commander is doing its thing, again, that's really useful. These are some of the core pieces we look at when we're trying to evaluate the strength of a commander overall. If your commander has high synergy with your hidden commander's game plan, again, that's one of the boxes we want to check for your commanders overall. Finally, you want to look at what the floor of cards that you've included as part of your package for your hidden commander is going to be. What is the worst case scenario with these cards? Cards which you include to take advantage of your hidden commander, such as tutors or card draw, to access the hidden commanders, recursion to get them back onto the battlefield, or cards which specifically synergize with your hidden commanders, they're best when they have a higher floor. So do they have any utility if or when you don't also have access to your hidden commander? if you have a card in your deck which is only good when another card in the 99 is out in play as well, specifically your hidden commander, even if you've really built your deck around getting it out, you want to consider this, as this is going to lower the floor on those cards and mean there's going to be more times when you have dead cards in hand. So that about covers the basics for what you're going to look at when you are trying to build a hidden commander. But I thought it might be helpful to look at some of the hidden commanders that I've built with recently, maybe to give you some inspiration or to better illustrate what I'm going for when I try to build one of these decks. We did a recent episode on my use of Hakon, Stromgald Scourge in my Tevesh and Tormod deck. In mono black, being able to put Hakon into the graveyard is relatively easy, with access to cards like Buried Alive, Entomb, and creatures like Vile Entomber. Hakon also covers the cost of most of his own recursion by crawling back out of the graveyard. In that case, I do not need to worry about having a super robust recursion package outside of what the deck already wants to run, meaning that particular cost in card slots is very low. Tormod directly synergizes with Hakon's ability to replay Knights over and over, and just for Hakon to climb back out of the graveyard himself, meaning that I am getting good value in the form of getting zombie creature tokens that Tormod is going to make for me. Further, Hakon directly synergizes with Tevesh Zot by giving him Knights to constantly snack on. Oftentimes, I am simply feeding Hakon directly to Tevesh Zot, drawing 2 cards, recasting Hakon, and calling that a good use of 3 mana each turn. I've also in the past built an Aminatou the Fate Shifter deck, built around a non-creature card, Dreams of the Dead. A lot of what I described when I was describing hidden commanders was to look at them as creature cards, but this is a really unique enchantment. Dreams of the Dead is an enchantment for 3 and a blue. It has an activated ability, 1 and a blue. Return target white or black creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature gains cumulative upkeep 2. If the creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. So when I built my Aminatou deck, the entire deck was full of white and black creatures with big enter the battlefield effects to blink into and out of play, raising the floor of the synergy cards in the deck by having generically useful enter the battlefield blink effects to use. Aminatou as the commander synergized neatly with this, by raising the floor on those ATB creatures while also giving a little bit of card draw and filtering, and allowing me to double my ETB creatures when I recurred them with Dreams of the Dead. This also meant that when I used Dreams of the Dead, I could use Aminatou's Blink ability to exile them, satisfying Dreams of the Dead's exile clause, and then returning them to the battlefield. This meant that I would not be permanently losing the creatures when I failed to pay the cumulative upkeep cost. I included lots of looting type card draw to load my graveyard with creatures. This let me more easily access Dreams of the Dead, but also to make sure that I had a fully stocked graveyard by the time I played the spell. Being in white meant I also had a few cards to recur enchantments if, and usually when, Dreams of the Dead was destroyed by my opponents. Last, but certainly not least, I think my love affair with Scrap Trawler is certainly well documented in the annals of this show. Scrap Trawler is a 3/2 artifact creature construct for 3 mana. Whenever Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand a target artifact card in your graveyard with a lesser mana value. Scrap Trawler decks, particularly when I build them, tend to revolve around fairly low-costed artifact creatures or artifacts in general that I can recur over and over and over for some form of value. Scrap Trawler decks depend on having some form of cost reduction in the command zone in the case of my Rakdos Lord of Riots deck, or some kind of a payoff card, such as God Eternal Oketra in my well-documented Scrappy Cat deck. Essentially, you want a way to make sure that you can play the cards which you are continuously recycling back into your hand for the cheapest cost possible, ideally 0 mana, in order to get ahead and have an infinite loop of artifact creatures entering the battlefield and leaving the battlefield and having powerful effects when they do so. Ideally too, you want to make sure you're getting paid off for this happening. In this case, Rakdos falls into the former category, offering a form of powerful cost reduction, allowing you to very easily go infinite with your loops on cards, while God Eternal Oketra, on the other hand, makes it harder to actually get the cost down to 0, but does provide you a powerful payoff every time you iterate upon the loop by generating more and more vigilant 4/4 zombie warrior creature tokens. My Rakdos deck and my Oketra deck both include ways to try to tutor out my Scrap Trawler and supporting cards in the package. God Eternal Oketra runs cards like Scrapyard Recombiner and Enlightened Tutor to get easier access to my Scrap Trawler. It also runs cards like Recruiter of the Guard to find Scrap Trawler, which has a toughness of 2 or less. Having access to black and red in my Rakdos Lord of Riots deck means that I also have access to a much more powerful suite of tutors in order to access my Scrap Trawler combo package. In red, we get access to cards like Gamble, where sometimes we don't even mind if we pitch away the card we were tutoring for, because if it winds up in the graveyard, hey, not too hard for us to access it again. We run that alongside effects like Buried Alive and Entomb to make sure that we keep the graveyard stocked with artifact creatures to recur off the back of Scrap Trawler. We also get to run powerful effects like Demonic Tutor, Imperial Seal, and Vampiric Tutor to have easy access, as well as powerful effects familiar to anybody using artifacts in red such as Goblin Engineer. In a way similar to Hakon, Stromgald Scourge, Scrap Trawler brings with it its own form of recursion. It can be very difficult to get me off of this combo once I've managed to get some pieces of the combo out onto the battlefield. Scrap Trawler as a hidden commander makes it easy to want to recur it over and over. The biggest part of the combo which needs to be included in the deck to synergize with it are the payoff cards and the cost reduction cards. In both cases with the decks that I run them in, well, I include those in the command zone as a way to make it a lot easier. That about does it for this episode of Gemstone Mine. But we want to hear from you. What are your favorite pet cards that you have turned into your hidden commanders? Which ones are ones that you're still trying to build around? What pet cards are ones that you have successfully built around, and which ones have you had some less success with? We want to know about it. Be sure to leave us a comment on YouTube, where you can find us for Gemstone Mine Podcast. You can get us on Twitter, where we are at Gemstone Mine MTG, or you can send us an email to gemstoneminepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm John, this is Gemstone Mine.